Okay, so this is a conscious mind conversation. We don't have very many of these, but it seems to be useful at this time to be able to discuss and be able to apply the information that they have been sharing with us to help assist those that are still having stucking challenges, questions. So anyway, Erin, you wanted to know what, my friend?
I am a newly empathetic person. I am now able to realize that I have not been a good listener my entire life. When people talk to me about their problems, they come to me to fix it or tell them what to do, not for emotional support. And I really want to support them emotionally, but I'm realizing that when they say listen to your friends and family, I am not even sure what that truly means, and that may sound pretty sad, but I think it's something to look into deeper and break down, because I'm sure I'm not the only one struggling to be a good listener, but really wanting to. So this is why I was hoping we could have this discussion today.
Yes. Well, usually when we have conversations with people, we're listening to hear what we already know and see if we can help them with their missing pieces of what we know. And so that is giving them the advice and to help them with missing information for them to understand what's happening. But when it's their own personal emotions and experiences, we don't know everything about them. And so we try to add our own previous experiences to give them that information to help them, which is, it comes from a really kind, loving place because we're wanting to help them. But often when you hear people sharing their feelings, most people have an allergic reaction to dealing with other people's feelings. You don't know what to say, what to do. Think about when you go to funerals or some sad situation. It's really hard to share our own feelings and to discuss things that could hurt others or make people sad. So it's a very challenging time to have open conversations about feelings. So when we have heard in sessions that we are supposed to go and listen to our friends and support our friends with their feelings, it is not about tapping into them energetically, knowing that they're full of fear or something else, and then listening to them open their hearts up to us and then put a label on them by saying, you've got fear, you're stuck, you're judgmental, you're coming from a whole lot of very low vibrational emotions right now. I mean, that's the last thing the person would want to hear is your diagnosis of what they're going through. So when you're having to listen to other people sharing, you have to ask them more questions rather than telling them anything of advice, because remembering it's their journey to explore and overcome their own emotions. So when you keep asking them questions, well, how does that make you feel? What does that remind you of? Have you experienced this in the past? Really care about the person enough to keep asking them questions about their feelings, so then they can go on that emotional journey with you, loving them, for them to be able to reach the destination of an outcome of releasing or seeing or observing their own reactions to their emotions. So I just want to add at this point a personal thing that I experienced. And so when we had our late miscarriage, we shared it with people, and people rushed to come to comfort me with their horrific details of their own losses. So I was already in a really overwhelmed emotional state. And for my friends and extended family to come to me to then share with me their own experiences, for them to let me know that they've gone through this too. It was possibly the worst timing to hear more bad, horrible, stressful situations. So instead of people just seeing the trauma I was going through and just saying and letting me acknowledge my feelings, they literally were like, hey, Joe, sucks to be you. I've also had 5. I've had 5 of them, and oh my God, I'm going to tell you about the first one. It was the most horrific. And then they would just vent and share with me all of their traumas, which is very valid, perfectly valid. I wished I had been able to have a conversation with them in a different time, but it seemed like my friends thought that this was the perfect opportunity to come and talk to me about their own personal trauma. And it just made me feel even more overwhelmed. Instead of processing one experience, I then had to emotionally journey through like 20 different miscarriages. And it was strange because I'd had so many conversations over the years with my friends, and we'd never discussed this until I experienced my own. And it was a lot. And, you know, I, of course, understand everything and the purposes and the lessons and the reasons for it. But I distinctly remember just already being overwhelmed, and then getting more information just kind of wasn't the support that they were really hoping to give me. And I understand that they were, you know, very kind with sharing their traumas, but I was not even in the state to support them through their traumas. So it was just this trauma conversation that just kind of, you know, very sticking point. So moving forward with, say our friends are coming to us and they're afraid of the current medical issues, or the inoculations, or global warming, or 5G, or something that really terrifies them. We know what we know from these sessions, because we can listen to these sessions and apply these sessions and understand these sessions and these principles, knowing that everything is purposeful. So even if our friend is panicking over 5G and is wearing a 5G protection suit, and they're lining their houses and their communities with, you know, whatever needs to be done for their peace of mind, instead of telling them that they're wasting their money and that they're stupid, because that's judgment, and then it's making them feel even overwhelmed because we're not buying into their fear, we can hear them having these conversations. We understand why they are needing to buy these products. So then we can support them and say, you know, oh yeah, I can understand why you're feeling those things. And so you've bought these products now that must make you feel safe, that must make you feel protected, just like with the inoculations. Well, that must make you feel safe, doesn't it? That must make you feel protected, doesn't it? Asking them to be able to stop being in fear-based and be able to move on to the next step of, you are protected. Some people don't want to hear about high dimensional beings protecting and watching us and, you know, keeping us from playing with plug sockets and, you know, getting into trouble. So give me a scenario if you can, Erin. Sorry, I've got completely off topic, but for you, give me a scenario for you about talking to your family and listening. Do you want to have a role play? Do you want to talk about how your sister, or say your family members, or even an imaginary friend, you have a conversation with me about what you are concerned about, and see if we can just have that journey together, and see if you can feel into what listening to someone seems like. Would that be helpful, or is that just ridiculous?
No, I think it would be helpful. I don't, as far as the inoculation, I am sensing that people have regretted their decisions, and are now very afraid of their health. And I am also how do I say this? I don't want to trigger them because they know I'm not loud shouting about it. I don't speak about it, but I don't want to make them, I'm so scared to make them feel even worse. So the best thing that I've been able to do thus far is just be super positive and nice around them.
And so,
But let's say,
so sometimes when they are worried and scared, and then you're just like, oh, love and sunshine, and look over there, let's just get distracted, you're not acknowledging what they're actually afraid of. So sometimes just being all super positive doesn't quite cut the mark, because then you're completely missing their emotions that they're reacting with and sharing with you. So it's about you not buying into their own emotions, you're just observing those emotions from a very neutral spot. So do you want to play then the person who is terrified, or whatever you're perceiving you're going to have a conversation with someone soon about their regrets?
yeah, that would be great.
Okay.
So the conversation will probably be with, oh my goodness, well, everyone I know is in this spot. And I'm just fearful I'll trigger them further. So I'm really glad that we're able to do a little mock trial of how to console someone, as opposed to human nature, which is dumping other trying to make someone feel better oddly by dumping on them, which is I've been guilty of that in the past myself. So I understand the thought process of trying to help but it doesn't do that. And you gave such a great example. So let's just say, well, I'll pick someone. My sister, head in the sand, inoculated. I am afraid of how that conversation will go because of her commitment to keeping her head in the sand. I'm afraid that her fear is going to be so overwhelming whenever it pops out of the sand. But if you could help me through that, I would love it.
Sure. So just want to say a few things. You're buying into future problems, which may not ever occur. And also, I know that we don't like to trigger people, but sometimes our team forces us, kicking and screaming, to trigger others for their growth and opportunities for growth. So I know that it's not, socially acceptable to be that triggering person, but people sometimes need to be triggered to reset their perspective. And as painful as it is to know that they're going to be triggered, sometimes we must trigger others, and we don't like it. We know that we are being of service, but yes. Okay, so let's have this conversation. I know it's going to be a hypothetical one, but let's just go with it. So what is your let's just say it's an imaginary sister. You've got two now. So what is your imaginary sister going to be called?
Sally.
Hey, Sally, how are you going today?
I'm okay. I'm all right.
Does it sound like you're okay, or you're all right? What is happening for you?
Well, I just saw that thing on the news, and I'm terrified of what I have put in my body, and I'm just scared.
And being scared must be a very scary emotion. So what do you feel is going to be happening for you?
I don't know, and that's what's so scary. I have no idea. Does this mean that I'm going to get sick?
Intuitively, do you get a sense that you are going to be sick?
No, I mean, I feel fine now, but who knows what's going to happen? Who knows down the line in the future? That's what's so scary.
Absolutely. Yeah, I can understand it would be really scary. What is your health like in general? I mean, are you exercising and eating well? Are you honoring your body?
Oh, yes. Yeah, I run all the time, and yes, I am very healthy. I eat healthy as well. I'm afraid that this is going to derail all that, and then I'm going to get really sick now.
Well, it sounds like you've got a healthy body because you maintain your body well. And that mindset of having a healthy body is very powerful. So if you are maintaining your body in a really healthy way, why would you think it would get sick?
I'm just so afraid of what I'm hearing now about it. And I feel stupid for going along with it and not even looking into it to begin with.
Well, I can understand those emotions. But do you think that that worry would help your healthy body, or do you think that that worry would disturb that healthy body?
Yeah, I think that's probably not a good idea.
Well,
That would probably disturb it.
it's understandable to feel that way, absolutely. And we do the best things we can at the time when we think we're doing the best decisions. Sometimes it works out well and sometimes it doesn't, but the power of the mind is so powerful. We know we can create extra stress on our body when we worry into things that don't actually eventuate. So the thought of having your powerful, healthy body because you are maintaining it well, I think that would be the best focus for your mind.
But what about all those other people that are getting sick?
Well, we don't know how they live. We don't know why they did get sick. Maybe they were focusing too much on having a sick body, and maybe they bought into the fear too much. We don't quite know why. You don't know what their medical history is or the way they live their lives. So we can only focus on ourselves. We can only be responsible for our own bodies. So I'm so glad that you look after yours.
So are you saying because I'm healthy that this isn't going to affect me, and because I feel fine now, it's not going to in the future?
I feel that if you are positively thinking about your body being healthy, that is more powerful than worrying about it being sick. Do you feel like that would be a better solution? I mean, I know that we can all buy into fear and worry that just drains our minds and our energies. The power of the mind is very powerful. Do you believe in that?
I have not heard that, but I like the sound of it so far. I do feel fine. I guess I'm more caught up in the worry of what could happen now, and I just feel stupid.
Well, this feeling stupid about yourself is not empowering yourself, it's not loving yourself, it's not respecting yourself. You made those choices and decisions because you believed it was the best for you. And moving forward, you may have a different outlook on different things, but thinking and believing that you have a powerful, healthy body and mind is incredibly encouraging for your self-talk.
Yes, I think you're right. Thank you, Erin, for walking me through this. Wow, you've come a long way. You're actually listening now.
Well, yes, I am a great listener and love all of my sisters, even the imaginary ones.
Oh wow, I'm glad we did that mock through. That was great. Honestly, that was really helpful, and I think a lot of people might find that very helpful as well.
But do you want to swap over and now I can be the freaked out person?
All right, let's do it.
Okay, I'm going to channel my inner Erin. Okay. So actually, no, I'm going to be Sally now, is that right?
Sure.
Okay. Hey, my imaginary sister friend, Erin. I'm just calling you because I am so stressed. I'm fucked. My body, I'm going to die. I'm going to die. I have done something so stupid and I'm going to die.
What do you mean you're going to die?
Well, I had the inoculation and now lots of people are getting sick from it. So obviously I'm going to get sick and then I'm going to die. And what's going to happen with the children and the pets and my mortgage?
Well, slow down. How do you feel right now?
Terrified. I'm going to die.
No, but do you feel sick? Do you feel like you're not feeling well, or are you just terrified?
No, I'm definitely going to die.
Slow down. Everything's going to be okay. How are you feeling besides terrified mood mood feeling that you're having right now? Have you been sick at all?
No.
That's awesome. That's great. Are you still working out a ton and eating vegan like you always have been?
Oh, I just tell people that, but really I eat McDonald's.
Well, you do you. I'm not going to criticize. I like my ice cream. So I think you sound like you're worried, but you also sound very healthy. I don't hear you coughing or wheezing or any of those things. I understand how scary it is, and you have every right to be afraid, but I think you should also take a look at how your body is doing, and your body is doing fantastic.
But I'm just scared because it's in the news that there are some ramifications of inoculations.
Yes, then that is really scary. That is really scary. How do you feel whenever you're not watching the news so much? Does it make you feel less scared when you turn the news off for a few days?
Well, because I love the news and I'm completely addicted to the news, it gives me comfort that it's going to prepare me for the future. So I am definitely prepared that, I'm going to have some problems here.
So you can watch whatever you want to watch, but I think it's also important to identify how you feel after you watch whatever segment of TV, news, or movies, about how you feel afterwards. If it makes you feel better, then great. But if it makes you feel worried or helpless, just pay attention to those feelings. What you're being told on the news is the worst case of the worst case scenarios, and they're not going over how you're doing right now. They're talking about other people completely.
But if I stop watching them, how am I going to know what's happening?
You will know exactly how your body is doing at all times because you're in tune with your body. You need to focus on how healthy you are feeling, as opposed to how other people with other medical conditions and other worst case scenarios are going. You don't want to accept that as your fate, because it's not your fate. Focus on yourself and being healthy and continuing to make the best choices that you can for yourself. Watching the news is not going to prompt you to do anything like that. So I would encourage you to tune into how you feel, not what the news is telling you to feel.
It's an interesting perspective. Didn't think about that.
Super wise.
But you know what, like the best thing is that you didn't like go into panic mode of like, oh my God, what the hell do you mean you're dying? Should we start planning your funeral now? What should I wear?
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, it's so hard. Like,
it is hard.
When they're freaking out and they've come with all this high energy and tension and stress, and they're convinced of the world is, oh my God, the sky is falling. Like, yeah, it's not a funny joke anymore, is it? We must be neutral when we're hearing about them, but not cold or not dismissive, and not be distracting them from what they're trying to share with us. Once they realize that we are able to hear them and listen with just their, like, we're really focused on them. We're not trying to see how it applies to us, and how, even if they're like, you're so stupid, even if they want to be angry with us because we're not reacting the same way. Often they are wanting us to react the same way and have the same fears. And when we're not afraid, when we're not afraid for them and when we're not afraid with them, that's really confusing for them because, they're so entrenched in that fear and worry. So when you come from that neutral, it kind of like diffuses their energy. And when you can just calmly talk about things, asking them questions, it's what they're not going to always leave the conversation like, well, now I love myself and I'm empowered and I'm going to be of service to self, and others. They're not going to have this complete, breakaway, profound epiphany every single time you talk to them. But it's about letting them know you can hear them and feel them and are open to them and not judging them. Because it would be so easy to be like, well, yeah, you chose to do something that could be very harming to your body, you fool. Like there is no point putting any labels or shame on them when they're already freaking out. So, and of course, we don't know all the answers. So, when we do have someone that's really highly emotional coming to us in fear, in victim, in any of those range of lower emotions, we don't always have the answers for them or the answers of the universe. And that is okay. We can still listen to them, love them, support them, and still not know the answers. And then it is simply owning that. I can see you're so upset and I love you so much. I'm so sorry that you're feeling like this. I don't know the solutions moving forward, but I just want you to know my imaginary sister, who's obviously uglier than me because I'm the pretty one in the family. Have humor anytime I can. Sorry, that's so not cool. Okay, sorry. We're twins and we are identical.
Yeah. But I'm still prettier.
I'm definitely the parents' favorite. Yeah. So I lost my track of thought. But so just admitting I don't know the answers to everything, even though we could be like, why are you worried about death, reincarnations of things, silly, or whatever. Knowing the bigger perspective, knowing about the shift, knowing about all of these other things is not the answers that they're seeking. Just like me with my miscarriage, I wasn't seeking answers because no one was sharing with me how they processed it. No one was sharing with me how they overcame it. It was like, it's always with you. It will always be for that pain will never go. Time does not heal. We got so much fantastic information for them, but it shut me down, and then I couldn't even talk about it with them afterwards. It just felt so heavy, and so this is the thing. I feel so many people have warned their friends and family about the inoculation so passionately, with so much fear and worry, advising them of what we think they should do, that when they have done it and when they may or may not have, reactions or whatever, they are still pissed off with us that we, with our passion and drive and scare and fear, have come and already warned them. So they're not really going to come to us and be like, oh, hey, my friend, my imaginary sister, you know what? You were right. No one's going to say that to you because no one likes saying that. You've got to be a really mature person to go back when you've grown and say to someone, wow, you were actually right there. I was wrong. People would rip their tongues out of their own mouths versus having to acknowledge that they were wrong. And that's just the ego, especially when you're having a fight and you're not wanting to back down because of your belief systems. Remembering, we're not trying to break or shun or dismiss anyone's belief systems, knowing that they got the inoculation for the hope of protection. Why would we ever want to take that hope away from them? So, it is about us being neutral, us knowing that whatever people want to believe, that gives them a higher vibrational option, we want to support them as much as we can, even though it may go against our own morals ourselves. We don't know what our friends and families' life contracts and experiences have for them to unfold. So, you know, it is hard. It is hard because we want everyone to also have our own same opinions, experiences, and belief systems. And this has been a really hard thing for people to learn from these sessions, the information about the shift in the new earth. And not that many people want to believe that or understand that or accept that. So, you know, most people share this with their partners or their friends and get an instant dismissal. And that is really hard when you have your own sessions and it still comes out as truth. To empower yourself to know it's okay that not everyone in my world believes and knows what I know. The belief and the information that we get and the knowledge that we get from these sessions is for us. And for us to expect everyone else in our lives to be on the same journey with us is a little bit selfish in some regards, because it's not for them. It's not for everyone. And we've been told this. Lots of people are not ready to hear all the information in these sessions because they still need a lot of attention to release themselves from the 3D. They're either fully judging, they're fully in fear. They are partially judging to some degree. They are partially in fear to some degree. They're still buying into the 3D and they still haven't fully released the 3D and all the lessons and experiences that they needed to still be able to overcome. I have known lots of people who have listened to these sessions for over a year and still have not heard information that has been repeated nearly every session. They've not heard love yourself and others. This is very new information for them to have heard and others. They are confused why suddenly now we have been told in sessions recently that we must be of service to others. It's blowing their minds to think that they are supposed to help others and to love others, which means all. Love yourself and all others. This is a very, very big, shocking statement that suddenly a lot of people are realizing that they have missed out and they've missed listening to and hearing and understanding and applying. And so it is very challenging times for many who have listened with half ears to these sessions because they realize they've got lost along the way. Partly because they've been listening to other influences that have helped them on their journey. They love the other influences, they love the lessons and the stepping stones that their journey with them has taken. But because their influences, the original influences that they have loved and identified with and the friends with and respect are not getting the same information from these sessions, they can only listen to these sessions that confirm the information they already have heard from others. So they're seeking confirmation. They're not seeking higher perspective or different new information. They're not wanting to hear new information really, or to apply or to have homework. So it is a lot for people to cope with. You know, there's so much going on. And those people who have life contracts to be of service are being reminded very heavily now because they haven't loved themselves enough to then be able to connect into their teams because they don't trust themselves enough. They're blocking themselves, they're blocking their team's information, but still listening to these sessions for information because it's like, I can't connect in truly to my own teams. So I'm going to just listen to sessions as a replacement of deeply connecting to myself and deeply connecting to my spiritual team. And so people are thinking, well, I don't need to really love myself to be able to get access to full connection to my team. I'm just going to listen to different sessions. I'm going to listen to everything on the internet to guide me, when ultimately the information in the sessions has always been love yourself. heal yourself, love yourself, and then be of service. And that was literally the very first main message that they've said. It's not new information, as we've discovered. Jesus was saying it, and heaps of other influential people over the times have always said this basic information, this basic principle. But some people have just heard it for the first time this week. And that is okay, because potentially they have been able to be ready at the right time to be able to hear the information. And this is important for people to accept. Whenever they could hear the information is the right time for them, because they have gone on that journey to release everything that has been blocking them.
Definitely. And I struggled with loving myself, and I would like to give actionable steps that I took. Maybe that'll help other people to hear. I realized that my self-worth was not where it needed to be. I was worried that anything I could do would not be enough to help people, would not be enough for me to ascend. And I realized it was due to my lack of self-love, thinking that I wasn't worthy. It took me a little bit to get to that realization, but as women, that is not uncommon for us to feel that way. So I identified my problem. I bought an affirmation journal, and I wrote in there like twice a day for, a week or 2 weeks, about the things I was accomplishing to make myself feel better. I took more charge of what I let into my mind, and I would only allow things that would uplift my mood. So I wouldn't watch scary movies. I wouldn't watch dramatic reality TV shows, because that just felt too heavy at the time when I was trying so profoundly to increase my own self-worth. So by doing the things that made me happy and just repeating over to myself, what I was doing, I am worth it, as basic as that may sound to people, that was my reality, and that helped me overcome it. I've overcome that. So if you can identify that as your problem, which again, I was there, so I'm certainly not judging. I'm just trying to help to say how I was able to get over it by doing things like that, or things that make you happy to build your own self-esteem. It will help you leaps and bounds. And with that, my connection with my team improved. It skyrocketed. And then I was also truly, once I was able to really love myself, then I could really take control of being neutral as well. And so that I was no longer a victim to things like the news or someone else's mood. I just chose not to let those things affect me. And at that point, I could help people without turning the conversation around to myself and my own worries, because that is human nature to do that. We think we're helping by saying, oh, I've been there, let me tell you about my story. That's not actually helping, because you're not actually hearing them. You're changing the topic to yourself. And I have done that for decades. So again, I'm not judging anyone, because I was doing that as well. But I was hoping to give this example to help people who are struggling with that same thing.
Yeah, because it is nice for people when they're struggling to then have, I fully can, I've been there, done that too. I can, we're wanting to make people feel like what they're going through is normal, and, the others have gone through it. So it's kind of, we're wanting to support them with having that commonality together, rather than, what we are naturally trying to do to comfort our friends is coming from a pure place of trying to help. But we sometimes don't really know how the best way to help is. And so we, add on, what do we add on? ways for them to be distracted from processing their own emotions. There's so much to it, and it's, you know, if only we could just simply just listen to our friends with love and just, I don't know the answers, but I just love you, my friend, you know, like I'm here with you through this. It would be probably the most powerful words then, rather than, you know, explaining the law of the universe and
Yeah, definitely. And so how do you, in these situations, I guess breadcrumb into someone into thinking about the origin of where their feelings are coming from? Because I'm such a bull in a china shop. That's the part where I'm like, I have no idea how I could even do that, where it could be helpful and not triggering for them. But how do you ask those questions to people who are afraid?
Well, usually when I listen to people prior to sessions, they would tell me what's going on in their lives, and it's usually a range of fear-based reactions, judgmental-based reactions, lack. You know, there's the whole range of lower density emotions that's going on for them, and they're really confused why their lives are so challenged and why they're so hard, because they can't see the lessons and the purposes for those experiences. And so all I can do is just listen and take notes and let the subconscious tell it to them. So I'm just the middleman. And so it's, but when we're privately talking as friends and I can hear them and their pain, you know, I kind of diffuse it by saying, what do you think the lessons are there? What do you think the purpose is there? So because I'm assuming I'm just talking to people who have already done some spiritual work, who have already, you know, who already know the concepts of everything is a purpose and a lesson. We're not victims here. We want to have these experiences to overcome. And I think I noticed really early on in this journey when I would have a client that would tell me that they've been awoke for, that they've been spiritual for 20 years. They know everything. They've known about the shift. They've known all this stuff. And, you know, they're super spiritual. And then their real core issues is their childhood that they've never looked at. So you can know the fundamental information about spirituality and, you know, who we are having these lives, and, you know, even the purpose of why they're having these lives, but they've never gone back to actually look at their own life experiences and unpack them. And it's a really interesting thing that, you know, big spiritual people who are very proud that they, you know, they know spirituality, and yet they've never revisited their own inner trauma, or there's still quite a lot still there, which is still making them still really fear-based. It's interesting, the spiritual friends that I have who still want to keep telling people about the propaganda. You know, they're obsessed about the propaganda. They want everyone to know about the propaganda. You must know about the propaganda. And it's like, yes, we know. We have known for a long, long, long time now. What next? But they're stuck. They just want to keep, they're on this loop of having to keep talking about it. And, you know, just there is that really strong obsession with it. And it's like, to this point now, it's like, do you think that you're shocking anyone with this information that everybody knows? But that's not the purpose of having those situations, to awaken people up to the truth of the state of humanity. That is one part of it. But there's spiritual people that love their spirituality, love that they're this big, you know, they've been doing this for so long and they know everything. And yet they still react with fear-based information. They still can't have discernment from what is limited information and what is empowerment information. There is so much out there on social media that looks beautiful. It's got pretty pictures. It looks like it's great words. And when you actually read into the intent of that beautiful poem, it is about keeping you stuck. It is about keeping you in fear. It is about keeping you in that lower vibrational density. That is not what we should be seeking, and that's definitely not what we should be sharing. But we get so tempted with the pretty pictures and the pretty words, and it looks all very spiritual, and they're using all the best spiritual terms, and so it must be legitimately powerful. But when the team has asked me to keep going in and looking at all these posts that people are trying to share on the Palladian and Arcturian group, for example, and the actual agenda for those, in quotation marks, spiritual uplifting posts has something very dense about it. And it is not pretty, not empowering, and it is actually quite concerning that many people are blindly trusting others than actually doing their own inner work to love themselves so much that they can have complete, pure access to their spiritual teams that are waiting on the phones for you to dial in with them. And yet that's too hard for people, so they'll just spend copious amounts of hours and energy and potentially even money to follow someone else's narrative and story. When you blindly do not know their agenda, the only agenda you know is yourself. That is why you can fully trust yourself. That is why you can fully empower yourself. That is why your teams have been asking you to love yourself, because as soon as you can love yourself to connect in with your own teams, they're giving you all the information straight away. You don't need to listen to these sessions. You don't need anything else, because your team is giving you all the information. You have completely overcome and empowered yourself through the 3D.
As a fact, I can back that up as truth. I got lost and confused. It was not a pretty process for me, but I'm here now, and I literally talk to my team all the time. I'm so annoying to them, but whatever. It's a great feeling to be able to know that you're loved and supported so immensely. But these these Swiss model looking characters on this YouTube channel, it normally says Pleiadians and then warning. And it's like, guys, hello. Do you think they have like artists on just taking their pictures all the time? And then do you think they would have a message? The Pleiadians, they're so loving. Do you think they would want the first thing for you to hear would be warning? That's fear, guys. I mean, so I get it because I was there, but it's take a hard look at what you allow into your mind, because it can really derail you, and ultimately from one of the most profound relationships you can have, which is with your spiritual team, who are guiding you lovingly, pointing you in the right direction, keeping you on track to life contracts that you don't consciously know what your life contract is. But to be able to have that level of support is cherishing. So you gotta get rid of the noise and love yourself first before you can get to them.
If you are motivated to find out what your life contract is, this is a great time for you to start loving yourself, to have that connection with your team and ask, because they will tell you when you use your free will to ask them. So it is not a great mystery. If you don't ask, you won't receive. And so it is about stop being distracted with other information. Really, it is about that, because often your own teams have the most appropriate information just for you, and it is not for public consumption. And it kind of confuses me why people don't understand that. Why? I mean, obviously it just boils down to self-love. And that's the hardest thing when I talk to my friends and they're really reacting in certain ways, and all I can see is their lack of self-love. And I could love them completely, but until they love themselves, they will never be able to empower themselves. And so this is part of enabling people. You love them so much more than they love themselves. So then they use that as a crutch, and then they're not motivated to love themselves because other people are loving them. So they're seeking out external support. And that is very painful for them because they're used to getting attention and support from others. And it becomes a very unhealthy cycle. I've seen a lot of people desperately wanting attention from others so much that they will create illnesses, accidents, whatever. They will go to extremes just to be able to get that attention and support and love.
Yeah, it's hard to see. It's hard to see. It's also hard to see from my angle because I was able to make this a priority. I was able to accomplish it because I am so concerned with the people around me who need me. The people around me are not, they're not starseeds. They're not into spirituality, and the world is about to be turned upside down. And the reason why we as starseeds or lightworkers or whatever, we're all so far spread out is where we need to be, where we can be useful. So if starseeds aren't able to profoundly love themselves and get out of that the fear cycle that we've been in our whole life, if we can't get to neutral, we can't actually truly help the people that are really relying on us. We are spread out for a reason, and that is it. We need to be on point for when they need us, and I take that so seriously. The sad reality is the consequence to people not doing this inner work is that the people around them are going to suffer, and that breaks my heart a little bit. But ultimately free will, and it's on each person. But I just wanted to remind people that there are those that are depending on them.
That is the literal reason why they're here in those families and in those friend groups, is to be of service. But they have got lost. And so they think that others are supposed to maintain them and support them and nurture them and love them. And that is where the disconnect comes from. A lot of volunteers, it seems, have assumed that they're here just to be loved and adored and to be congratulated just being here. But that is not the purpose here. You actually need to be of service. And what service looks like is hard work, because you've got to release all of your own life experiences, which is tools for you to be able to then support others, because you've already overcome all of your experiences. So therefore you can be able to come from a neutral, a loving perspective without judgment or limitation. And so, it's very purposeful who you are living around and with. But as people have grown and awakened to the truth, they have sorted out support, and that has severed some relationships. And so it is time now for those relationships to be potentially revisited, or ultimately, because you are, and you should be so high vibrational now, because you profoundly love yourself and you are attracting more positive energy towards you. Those who still need to be encouraged and supported and loved by you will be drawn and attracted back into your life. It's not an accident who suddenly just pops up into your life. But remember, we are supposed to be the more mature ones in this situation, and sometimes it means that we have to be the first ones to reach out and own our reactions to some things that were very heightened. Obviously obviously you can't call up a friend and be like, yeah, look, sorry for that time that I was super passionate about the truth that you were so stupid to listening to. I took it real personally. Like,
Yep.
but it's kind of like, there's no justification for it, because, you know, there is no justifications when you hurt people or you trigger people, or, you know, like, we can be responsible for our own reactions. But there is so many generic statements that are just blow away. I'm sorry, you felt like that, is a really, like, you know, it is not, you're not sorry, you know, you're condescending. And that is, you know, it's been overused now. So it's, you know, it is just a flippant thing. So our words are very powerful. But what's more powerful than our words of manipulation is our intent of pure love. And when we change our intent, rather than being the right and you're the wrong and we're going to judge you because you're stupid, when we have the intent to just love them for who they are and what they're going through right now, that is a powerful energy to meet in that conversation. We may not know the right words. We are genuinely sorry they're struggling, because we've all been there. The old Joe would have just collapsed in this world right now. If I hadn't have heard about this information sessions and been able to have empowered myself, I mean, I would be in deep terror. I can easily go back and think about seeing today's world from old Joe's perspective. Like, I can tap into that. I can buy into that fear and worry and stress and all that stuff that doesn't serve me. I have a choice to trust the information set from a bigger perspective, or run back to old Joe, drag her to today and freak out about the control systems that look very scary, about the pressure of everything that has changed in our world in the last year. I mean, I could, if I chose, completely break down and never want to ever crawl out of it again. I could completely shut down. And, you know, that, what would that do for me? What would that do for my family? What would that do for my friends if I chose to refuse to see things from the bigger perspective? Like, I mean, even just thinking about the old Joe, bringing her forward today to feel all of this, I mean, it's scary. It is scary. Like, those feelings are always going to be with us if we choose to remember what the 3D scare factor looks like, buying into all of the control and manipulation and the systems that are so not good for humanity. You know, instantly we can think about that and feel into that and tap into that. And I am just so grateful that that old Joe isn't here in that mindset of freaking out and reacting to everything. Because, you know, I mean, she would have been broken. She would have been so scared and so disempowered and so afraid, terrified actually. And, you know, I just am so grateful that I have learned from these sessions the bigger perspective. It gives me hope. It gives me clarity why everything needs to happen to awaken people. I refuse to get stuck in those lower emotions, because my gosh, they don't serve anyone. And, you know, it is, I don't think it's naive or being foolish to not feel into those lower emotions. I don't need to feel those emotions to know exactly what's happening for humanity and why. Those emotions do not serve me. And I just was thinking about this the other day, how the old version of myself, the one that was completely oblivious to everything in the sessions, how she would have coped. And I'm allowing myself to feel this now. And I think as a mother, I would have gone into flight and fright and gone into battle. I would have, you know, I would have said, I probably would have been arrested by now. And maybe it's where a safe place. But no, I'm consciously aware that people are listening to these sessions and thinking to themselves, are they endorsing the inoculations? Don't they understand the emotions, how dense this is? Don't they understand how hard this is? And they do. But they also know this. It is our choices if we want to buy into those emotions that we are in control of. No one can control or make us feel anything. It's all our own choices. And do we want to have a pity party and, justify feeling like crap because we want to buy into and marinate ourselves and just focus on the fear and the intensity of those emotions? Or do we choose to stop? Do we choose to realize that that's doing such damage to our bodies, our minds, our relationships, our quality of life, and say goodbye to the inner peace, because that inner peace is being disturbed and there is no balance there? So I just allowed myself to go into that density, which made me just instantly want to cry. And it's so overwhelming. And so I'm releasing it now because yuck, it's disgusting. It is not, it is gross. And now I just want to feel into, the positivity and the balance of this life does seem very chaotic. We understand what is happening. We understand why we are feeling this way. We also understand future events. We also understand that this is, just one page out of a novel of our experiences this lifetime. Seeing it from the bigger perspective always gives me great comfort. And, it's a journey. It's not an easy one, but it's our choices that make it much easier for us. And we are in control of that. While we're not in control of any of the hidden agendas and the dark forces and the blah, 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 we are completely in control of ourselves. And that was the greatest thing, Erin, when you were talking to your imaginary twin sister who was just as equally hot, if not more or less than you, who had the same fate of their parents. That's what you kept bringing it back to, right? Was that, instead of reacting to the world and the news, acknowledge that you're just needing to react and worry and focus on self. And so many people who are distracting themselves from self don't pay attention to themselves because they are so disempowered, so worried about others that they're completely oblivious to what's in front of them.
Yeah. Yes. I hear that. I too, at one point, fell into this whole storyline of, well, 3D people are gonna hang out with 3D people, then 5D people are just gonna gravitate towards each other. At one point, it seemed like a natural separation, and I was feeling a lot of hurt and pain myself when I bulldozed my way into ungracefully shouting out, what I had learned. Horrible, not good, not pretty, guys. But then I realized, okay, yeah, that's bullshit. So I put on my big girl pants and I reached out to the people that I love and I had missed and that I had isolated myself from because I felt like an idiot and I felt like they were judging me. And it was a lot of pressure that I put on myself. But once I reached out, I was shocked at the responses I got from people I hadn't spoken to in months. And I was able to reconnect with those people. And I think it's so important that everyone does that. Realize that if you were less than a graceful ballerina princess, like me, when I was a bull in a china shop, if you behave the same way, it's okay. Forgive yourself, number one. reach out to these people because you do need to be the bigger person. Reach out just to get together, just to see how they're doing, just have fun. Reestablish those relationships so that you are going to be able to be there for them when they need you, because their world will come crashing down around them, and you're here to help, you're here to support them. So, you know, forgive yourself for how you behaved, forgive them for their response, and reestablish those relationships. It's really, really important, in my opinion. So I did want to just mention that. Also, I think this has been super helpful for other people to hopefully compare with their lives and situations that they're in, because we are experiencing very similar situations, being so spread apart all over the world like we are, having very similar challenges. So that was one thing that I was hoping to mention.
Well, I love that you're sharing your experiences, and I'm sure others can appreciate that and, you know, have similar experiences. It is, you know, it is hard. We're not pretending that it's not hard, but it's our choices of making it easier or harder for ourselves now that we have this bigger perspective.
Definitely.
Okay, well, did we answer your questions about exploring how to listen to your friends?
Yes, that gave me a great idea of how to move forward. So thank you.
It's pretty cheesy to do role playing, but it kind of
Yeah, but it was helpful. It was helpful because I am not the person you go to talk about your feelings. I'm the person you go to like tell you how, what to do to fix stuff. But so having the support is great, and having the support of the higher dimensional us's and beings is fantastic, because the inner peace is truly priceless.
When our only role is just to love everybody, it's pretty simple. We don't have to have solutions or answers or advice. Just love, 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 love. I mean, you can't get any simpler than that, right?
Right.
I mean, we want to make it complicated by trying to help them, give them advice and solutions and all this sort of stuff, but just loving them and honoring what they're going through so they can realize we are listening and we love them. You know, they're going to be freaking out that you have had a full walk-in experience and that someone has taken you over, and obviously you're a clone.
Yeah, obviously.
Okay, my beautiful friend, I love you, and your imaginary sister says goodbye.
All right. Talk to you later. Bye.